Okay, what up guys? So the lighting's horrendous. It's a mess, but today I wanted to talk about herbs. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I get really nervous when I want to talk about herbs just because there's so much that goes into it. I think this is a feeling that I need to get past, but I feel like if I were to talk about herbs and herbalism in a way that I feel truly represents the craft and truly preps you to dive into the world of herbalism, the videos would be very long. They'd be very scientific and specific. I don't know, I feel like that's just a lot of pressure for myself to present it in that way. And so I think a happy medium for me right now is to obviously give y'all the facts, obviously be as clear as I can about herbalism and herbs and how to use herbs safely, but also I think try to approach it in the perspective of things that I personally do and personal opinion rather than treat this as a way to teach herbalism, just because I don't personally feel qualified to be a teacher of herbalism, but I can teach through personal practice. So I think that's where this content is probably going to end up going as far as herbalism and talking about herbs and giving y'all advice. And I think it is really like a personal protection thing as well as like protection for y'all as well, because there's a lot of research that I think any person should do before consuming herbs and diving into herbalism. And instead of putting the pressure to make sure that I give y'all everything you need to practice herbalism safety, I would much more prefer if y'all did the research yourself outside of the things that I say. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a practitioner, I'm just simply someone who has studied herbalism, who has a passion for herbalism and loves to share. And so yeah, that's why I'm making this. And today I thought I would talk about some herbs that I personally really like that have to do with womb health. And so all the herbs that I want to talk about today are herbs that are particularly beneficial to womb-bearing bodies. And I say womb-bearing bodies because herbalism does not subscribe to the gender binary. And so this is, I think, the most general, way that I could phrase it. But these are all herbs that either have an affinity to the reproductive system or they just have benefits that specifically transfer over well to the reproductive system. And I also think this topic is great for anyone to know, just because I feel like regardless of lifestyle, regardless of who you are, there is probably a chance that you will come across someone that is of a womb-bearing body, or you know and care about someone who has a womb. And so I feel like this information can be generally useful to anyone. And I think that's something that's pretty cool about herbalism. You know, herbalism doesn't care who you are. It's about health, it's about wellness. And so yeah, today we're going to talk about great herbs for the womb. So if y'all would like to follow me into less favorable lighting, I just wanted to show you my herb shelf because this is where I keep all of my herbs. As you can see, I have hella herbs, and honestly right now it kind of just feels like they're for show because I haven't been making products. And so I have just like a lot of herbs that I generally don't touch for personal use just because they were bought for my apothecary shop, which is currently not up. But this is relevant because I want to say about maybe like 75% of these herbs are herbs that have a very specific or general use, and that use is for womb health. Just because when I opened my shop, that was a topic that I really cared about, and it's something that I'm still really passionate about. And so a lot of these herbs have benefits for womb-bearing bodies, and so that's why I wanted to share this today. Okay, so I wasn't really sure how extensive I wanted this list to be, so I have 7 herbs right now that I pulled off my shelf, and I already know there's one herb that I don't actually have on the shelf that I really wanted to talk about today. So we're gonna see how this goes. I didn't want the list to be extensive because I think another thing that I want to kind of like get away from is just like info dumping about herbs, which I feel like that's something I used to do on my TikTok a lot. Like I would have like a general subject like anxiety and stress, and then I would just drop like 10 herbs that help with anxiety and stress. I think that's great for anyone who's willing to put in the extra work and just like research all of those herbs, but I think I want to get better at just talking about a couple herbs and then like really diving in and giving some explanation as to why I like those herbs specifically, and take my time going through the herbs that I know and going through the herbs that I think are super helpful and valuable. But to start it off, let's talk about an OG herb for women's health, and that is red raspberry. So I feel like red raspberry has been an herb that has been generally popular, I feel, within just like social media and people that are getting into herbalism and just overall womb health. I think one, it's a really accessible herb when it comes to herbalism and wellness. Sometimes it can be hard in the world of herbalism just because there's very general herbs that the general public know about and are aware about, and then it kind of breaks off into the more niche herbs and things that you might have to research a bit if you want to get a hold of them. And so one thing that I love about red raspberry is it's very accessible and it gets the job done. And as far as benefits and why I love red raspberry, I specifically use red raspberry for PMS symptoms. It's really great if you're someone that deals with cramping. It's great for easing menstrual pain, and so that's why I use red raspberry. I do know that there's very limited research about red raspberry and its use during labor and pregnancy, and so I don't want to dive into that too deeply, but I do know that it is believed that red raspberry does help with labor and it does help with pregnancy. I will say though, that is something to research just because it's not always safe to take herbs during pregnancy, and so that would be something that you'd specifically talk about with a practitioner or a doula. But for me, this is an herb that I will start taking in my luteal phase and through menstruation just because it is great at easing period cramps. I will say though, for me, especially if I'm having like a really heavier painful flow, I will have to take it every maybe 3 or 4 hours. So it's not like a long sustaining herb, but it is something that when you do take it, like you really do feel the effects, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Some herbs take a while to build up in the body, and so you don't really feel those effects until later on, but this is an herb where if you do take it, you are going to feel that relief. I wouldn't say immediately, but within 30 minutes, and it will last for a while. And so that's why I would say that red raspberry is at the top of my list when it comes to just general PMS and relieving cramps and easing period pains. And usually when I do take it, I will mix it with lemon balm. It is a pretty pleasant flavor, I will say. I'm not someone who really drinks tea though for the flavor. I kind of just view it as a means to an end, and so I don't really care if things just taste like hot leaves. But if you're someone who does care about flavor, that's something that matters to you, I would say this is pretty pleasant. It is fairly sweet, and then if you mix it with lemon balm or something else, it's a really nice soothing flavor. But next on the list we have damiana. Yeah, I hope these will probably all low-key look very similar. Damiana is a great herb because not only do you drink it, but it can be smoked, and I usually smoke it more than I drink it, I'm not even gonna lie. Now, I will say that I do consider damiana to be more of a sexual health herb, but we're kind of roping it in just because I really enjoy it, and I feel like it falls generally within the category. But what makes damiana unique is it is an emmenagogue. If you know, you know, but as an emmenagogue, it does have properties that can increase blood circulation and bring on menstruation, which can be a problem if you are someone that is pregnant. So I would definitely not take damiana if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, but in general, it's a great herb if you are trying to bring on menstruation. And though there's not a lot of research to back this up, it is also believed to help with balancing hormones, and it is an aphrodisiac. And so if you are someone who would like to boost your libido, I would say this is also a great herb for that as well. And damiana is one of those herbs that are believed to have slightly varying effects depending on if you're a masculine or feminine person, but I will say just in general, it is an aphrodisiac, and that's why I like damiana. Especially when I smoke it, it has similar effects, and it's also just soothing. So yeah, that is why it has made the list for today. Yeah, I definitely smoke it more than I drink it, but it is something definitely to research if you are more interested in those hormone balancing effects. I would definitely check out damiana. So moving on, we have red clover. I want to say, honestly, I feel like red clover is tied for second place when it comes to womb health. In general, clover, I believe, is one of the best herbs if you're someone who is experiencing menopausal symptoms, specifically hot flashes and vaginal atrophy, which is just dryness. I feel like whenever I've used red clover, I just feel good. I feel like red clover isn't given enough credit for what it does, and it's not as popular as I would think it would be because of its benefits. I would definitely say if you're someone who is either experiencing menopausal symptoms or you just deal with vaginal atrophy maybe, this is a great herb to check out. I will say though, the one caveat with red clover is it is contradicted with birth control. If you are taking any type of hormonal birth control, I would watch out for red clover. I'm someone who does non-hormonal birth control, and so I essentially track my period and my cycles through measuring my temperature every day, and I love it. I think it's amazing. I actually have a video talking about it, I think about the anniversary of me using that method for a year or so, but I think it's been at least 2 years now. So it's been 2 or 3 years. I actually don't remember what the anniversary was of that last video, but I'm gonna link it in case that's something you're interested in. Being childless is a passion of mine. I enjoy not having a child. I enjoy living my life. And honestly, I feel like having 2 cats is like having a child low-key. So yeah. Red clover. But with that being said, if you are someone who is interested in boosting your fertility, this next herb is definitely for you. A while ago, I used this herb to make some tinctures that I literally didn't touch for a year because I kind of fell off mentally, and so I kind of wasted all those herbs. But the herb that I want to talk about is chasteberry, and the reason why I want to talk about chasteberry specifically for myself is because it's a great hormone balancing herb. And so if you're someone who struggles with hormonal acne, as do I, it's actually cleared up a lot. I'm someone who gets a breakout like right before I menstruate and also around ovulation, and so for a while I was taking chasteberry for that, and I will say it cleared my skin right up. But I did eventually stop taking it because one of the side effects for chasteberry is hot flashes, and I started getting them heavy after consistently using chasteberry. I want to say for like maybe a month or 2 months, I definitely started noticing hot flashes being a new symptom, especially around the end of my luteal phase and going into menstruation. And so I stopped taking chasteberry, and since then I just haven't gone back onto it. I think I'm gonna have to do a little more research as far as mixing herbs. Herbalism can be as general or as specific as you'd like it to be, so I think that's kind of like a personal mission of mine to find a blend that really works for me and gets me the results that I'm looking for, but also kind of like counteracts those negative impacts that I know some herbs like chasteberry have on my body, which is hot flashes. And so that's why I mentioned it with the red clover, because red clover is great for hot flashes, but I have not used them together yet. I really like chasteberry. I'm telling you, when I took it, I had really bad hormonal acne. It's not that bad anymore. I think that has to do with my nervous system and also the fact that I moved. Just in general, my skin cleared up, and so sometimes it's your environment, but I know for a fact that chasteberry helped me out when I was in my last environment and really struggling with my skin. Okay, so I moved, but I thought it would be also valuable to say that if you're someone that deals with fibroids, this is an herb that I'd recommend looking into as well. I don't want to say anything concrete. I think that would be irresponsible of me. But if you're someone that deals with fibroids, this is something that I noted as far as my notes for chasteberry. I don't have fibroids, so I can't really speak on this. But if you're someone who struggles with that, I would definitely look into this herb. So I have 4 more herbs I want to talk about. This list is definitely a little more extended than I planned. And if you're interested in me doing a deep dive on any of these herbs, definitely comment it below, because I'd love to do something that is definitely a little more specific. I'm kind of a nerd, so I like learning about the Latin, and I love learning about the properties and compounds that make these herbs therapeutic. So if you're like me and you want to learn more about the herbs themselves, let me know. But next on the list is going to be licorice root. Not gonna lie, I do not like the taste of licorice root. If you like licorice, you're gonna really like this one. I'm not that person, but licorice root has a lot of benefits. And for a minute, despite the taste, I was really into licorice root. Licorice root is another herb that is great for infertility. So if you're someone who struggles with that, I would definitely look into licorice root. On top of that, it has been speculated that it can be potentially helpful if you are someone who has polycystic ovarian syndrome. I've had a couple friends that have had PCOS, so that's why I was researching licorice. I've seen a lot of personal anecdotes that back that up. But as far as the research is concerned, like most herbs, there's nothing like concrete, and so it's really hard to tell sometimes. I think like most things, it really does just depend on the person. But for that reason, I do think it is worth it regardless to look into licorice root and see if it's something that might work for you. Licorice root also has antimicrobial, antiviral, and antibacterial effects, and so that's another reason why I really like licorice root. I feel like apart from womb health, I feel like skincare is another reason why I really am into herbalism. But yeah, licorice root is honestly a really versatile herb, and for that reason too, it is contradicted with a couple different medications, and so that's also something to look out for, especially when you're dealing with herbs. So I do have licorice noted as an herb both for womb health and also skincare as well. Okay, so I have 2 more herbs I want to talk about, and one of those being ursi. Ursi is another fun one because it can also be smoked, and I will often smoke, you know what? I didn't mention this, but I also smoke red raspberry. I can't in good conscience promote the use of herbs for smoking just because technically nothing should be going into your lungs, but I have made blends with ursi, red raspberry leaf, damiana, rosebuds, mullein, and mugwort. It's a beautiful blend. I really like it. And honestly, ursi is an OG. It's actually great for UTIs. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. Once again, I think that's more so maybe sexual health, which is womb health adjacent. But if you're someone who struggles with constant UTIs or you get a UTI every once in a while, ursi is your girl. And as far as smoking goes, it kind of gives like a heaviness to the blend. Like, it adds some weight. It's kind of like smoky. And I think that's particularly relevant if you're someone who's trying to get away from tobacco, because I have heard that ursi is a great substitute or an alternative. And so if that's you, this is also something to look into. Yeah. Ursi for a long time has been used as UTI relief, and apart from that, it's also known to help with chronic cystitis, and so that's another thing to look into. Once again, I think ursi is an herb that I smoke more than I drink. Some of these herbs are less for personal use. I feel like ursi kind of falls into that category. It's something that I sold on my shop when I did have it up, but I myself truly only smoke it, so there's that. And so the final herb that I want to talk about today is mugwort. There wasn't like a specific order to these herbs. It was really just like what I saw, I talk about. And so not to say this is the best or the worst. I think they're all great for different reasons. But one thing that I really like about mugwort is that it is a womb tonic. And so that essentially means that it just generally supports wellness and it has an affinity for the uterus. That's why it's on the list today. Mugwort is also an herb that I like to smoke. And I will say, if you drink it, it is known to have like slightly psychoactive properties. It's nothing insane, it's nothing to be concerned about, but it does kind of like open you up. Like, I feel very good when I take mugwort, and on top of that, it's like anti-stress, anti-anxiety. Yes, all around love mugwort. But something to look out for, I believe that mugwort is also an emmenagogue, meaning that if you are pregnant, I highly suggest that you do not touch this herb. Mugwort is also known to induce or bring on menstruation, specifically delayed or past due menstruation. But yes, on top of regulating menstruation, helping bring on and stimulating menstruation, it's also believed to help with relieving cramps as well. So if you're someone who deals with PMS, this is also an interesting herb to maybe look into. Yeah, so that was the last one on the list. Honestly, I kind of feel like I blew through those, not in like a this is a crappy video type of way, but there's a lot more I could say about each herb. But I really just wanted to put these herbs out here because this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for so long, and so this is kind of just me like forcing myself to actually commit to the things that I said I'm gonna do. Wow, amazing. I really want to have more herbal chats like this, and I really want to bring up more herbs in a more casual setting that makes it seem a little more fun. Hopefully, maybe if not fun, maybe less intimidating. And so these are some herbs that I've used for a while that I really like and enjoy, and so I just wanted to share those with y'all. Like I said, if you're interested in me getting into more specifics about these herbs, that's something I could definitely do and I would love to do. I know a lot of y'all on here subscribed and follow me for herbalism, and so thank you for that. I appreciate you being here. But if you're new and this is the first time that you are meeting me, hi, hello. We just living life over here. But yeah, herbalism is something that I have researched, studied, and had a general interest in for a couple years now. It's been a minute. I feel like a lot of the information just like exists in my mind, and I don't necessarily know the best way to share it with y'all just because it was really personal when I started looking up herbalism. If you're interested in stress relief, mental wellness, skincare, hair care, any of that, just know I got some videos coming. But if there's anything else that you think would be interesting or is valuable to you, definitely leave it below because I'll either provide some guidance just in the comments or I might just make a video. So yeah, you just gotta let me know. But thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy healing. All right, bye y'all.